Welcome back to the Marvel Movie Minute, a daily podcast in which we explore the films of the Marvel Cinematic Universe 1 minute at a time. In this, our 5th season, we are looking at Joe Johnston's 2011 film Captain America, The First Avenger. I'm Andy Nelson from the Next Reel Film Podcast.
And I'm Pete Wright, and it turns out the bra was calling from inside the blouse.
Today we're talking about minute 113, which begins with Steve wondering where he is really, and ends with Samuel L. Jackson making his appearance.
I may be wondering where I am.
Yes, right, that's right. JJ is wondering. Joining us today and Friday, we have Justin Jaeger, a.k.a. JJ, from the TruStory FM Entertainment Podcast Network. Hello.
Hi, happy to be here.
We are thrilled to have you.
So, what you don't know, JJ...
I think I don't know a lot.
Yesterday, we uncovered an important bit of information. The real reason Steve knows that he is not in the right era. It's all because of the S.H.I.E.L.D. agent. Andy?
That's right. The S.H.I.E.L.D. agent's wearing the wrong hairdo, and she has the wrong kind of bra.
The wrong hairdo?
And the wrong bra.
It is not this baseball game, whatever. Baseball game. It's really the bra. He looks at her and realizes, wait a minute.
I don't think he picks out the bra.
No.
You don't think that's what he looks at first?
No, the hairdo, though. I mean, they do try to make her look perioded, right?
Yeah.
They do try to dress her what they think might be different. Did they just mess it up terribly? Is that what you've uncovered?
They mess it all up because the baseball game, as we find out, is the wrong year, and her hairdo is the wrong hairdo, and the bra is the wrong kind of bra. So everything that she did. Plus, he can't see it, but maybe he can because he has super eyes. She's carrying a remote control. So there's a lot of things going on.
It's the wrong remote control.
It is the wrong remote control.
Does he have super eyes, though? Is that something... I mean, we assume that he has super everything, but I mean, he doesn't have like DC Superman super eyes.
Well,
he has...
it's never really stated in the films. Apparently, at some point in the comics, there was some hint that there was enhancement of all of his senses. I don't know how much they ever went down that road because, it would make him really seem just like Marvel's version of Superman.
Yeah. But can't fly. But yeah.
Right. But I mean, it's something that we've been discussing. Like, I mean, he's very intuitive. He seems to tap into things like Hydra soldiers hiding in trees that no one can see, things like that. So what is it that's giving him these clues? Is it his sight? Is it his sense of smell? What's happening? So
the super soldier serum gave him this amazing power called Deus Ex Machina.
Exactly.
No, I'm just kidding. Yeah.
But in yesterday's minute, we were laughing because we looked on tvtropes.org, one of our favorite sites that lists all sorts of tropes, and they had something about this called the anachronistic clue when Steve wakes up here. And they talk about the baseball game, but then they also talk about these other elements that we didn't really tap into, but they pointed it out for us, that she's wearing a haircut that didn't come into vogue before the mid-2000s. And this type of bra, the modern push-up bra, would not be something that she would be seen in. So,
and I guess my feeling about it, and the thing that I wanted to say about the baseball game is that they did try a number of things, right? I mean, they made an environment that looked somewhat like it. So wouldn't they pay attention to those things too?
Well, yeah, they made this environment, but clearly they were very sloppy because, I mean, if he got up and walked to the window, he would see that it's just a translite.
It's over.
Right outside. So it's like, there's nothing about this that speaks to reality. And so it's very funny. I don't know. I don't know. I guess I'm curious. What is your sense from both of you as to the plan the S.H.I.E.L.D. has here?
For me, I think it was just a spoonful of sugar to help the medicine go down. I mean, really, like they figured he was going to wake up, he was going to be freaked out, so they tried to soften the blow as quickly as possible. But then to say that, like, that's a great thing. But then to have the remote control and bring in the black shirts to try and take him down doesn't jibe with that. So I don't know. I mean, I think it's just something fun for the movie, because it doesn't, if you spend any time thinking about it in terms of what it means story-wise or what the motivations were, it kind of falls apart.
I've been thinking about it since we talked about the beginning of this minute yesterday, which was that it feels so misguidedly bureaucratic, right? Like, doesn't it feel like not that, like, the right people weren't all involved in this conversation when they came up with this idea that there's one person, Jimmy, or I don't know, maybe we'll call him Nick, wasn't there to say, that's really stupid, we should do this differently. And so I think it's silly. I love the fact that they actually made the environment sepia, which ends this minute. And that, I think, is one of the most interesting bits of filmmaking here, that Steve wakes up in the present and it's still, sepia from the rest of the movie. And it is a hard, noticeable sort of cut when he throws the soldiers through the wall. I think that is a nice touch visually for us, the audience, to drag us into the present. And if that's the only reason they do this, maybe that's all we need it to be.
I think there's a lot to that, and kind of the creation of this facade. And part of me thinks that, I mean, you mentioned that maybe smarter minds might have told them this is dumb, like somebody named Nick. But part of me thinks maybe it was somebody named Nick who said, you know what, let's just, he's starting to wake up. Why don't you just throw him in a room real quick? I'm on my way. I'll be there soon. I mean, he's really close, as we find out. And Steve just happens to wake a lot quicker than everybody's intending. And they were kind of hoping, I mean, maybe Nick was hoping he would get here and would be able to be the guy who could walk in. And she just happened to be the standby who was there because Nick didn't quite get there in time. And
you guys keep calling him Nick. I just think it's awesome.
Nick, who was down
Nick,
at the fleet.
This was like a hypothetical, like 45 seconds ago, and now I'm like, oh, there's a character. That's right.
There's a character named Nick.
Oh gosh.
Unfortunately,
nobody calls me Nicholas. Yeah, no, I know.
He's also in charge of like fleet buying from Acura, so he can't be there fast. That's the important part.
Right. Yeah. I think it's also interesting, Pete, that you say that he throws the soldiers or the shield agents through the wall, because that is so, it's just another one of those implausible ways that it happens, because they uniformly come out together in a clear explosion that is just generally impossible to imagine what physical thing happened that caused that to start within the actual room.
Yeah, like what orientation the room. My assumption is, so the bed, when you look at it at second 23, you can see that the bed. So I guess he's throwing them out to his left from when he was in the room. So somehow he reached past her without sort of jostling her out of the way, because she's calling for help, grabs the soldiers and chucks them sideways in complete perfect parallel.
Or he uses his super breath. Sorry, going back to the Superman thing. It's such a silly way it's very comic booky for the two to pop out. But it would have helped probably if Steve had been visible through the hole in a move where he had pushed them both out or something. But the fact that we don't even see him, it just ends up speaking to these guys are on a wire rig and just get thrown through the wall.
And just got yanked.
Yeah.
And didn't know it. they were as surprised as we are. Steve comes out holding his hands up saying, I didn't do it. There is something to the idea, though, that you say comic booky. It's comedy, right? It's a joke. It's a physical gag that I think it works for me. It works for me because it does a number of things. I think the only thing that maybe could have been blocked a little bit better to not stop us thinking about it in minute to minute is just maybe he just pushes them right through the door through which they just came and blow the wall out, right? It's the physics of it that doesn't make sense.
Or the simple choreography. Have one come out and then the second one get thrown out or something, just to imagine the actual struggle that happened, as opposed to this idea that, something about him is a bomb that blows everyone up in a uniform fashion out of the wall. But those are just, foibles, as we would say.
Here's the thing that I think I would like you to weigh in on, something that we got into yesterday about this whole idea that in the 40s, the SSR took up many city blocks of underground territory. And now, apparently, S.H.I.E.L.D.'s secret base is now the first floor of a bank in downtown Manhattan.
Kind of a nice
Does that strike
hotel,
you
I
as
think.
odd at all? It's a hotel. They just rented a hotel.
Having power
Maybe
issues.
they also have the place in Brooklyn still.
Right.
They're expanding.
Okay, maybe they do.
They're
doing all
Actually,
of
that is now an Airbnb. Very popular exotic getaway.
Bought up by a corporation. Exactly. Yeah, no, I don't know. I think the interesting thing is that of the location or the geography of it. I think for me, the kind of neat thing about that scene, and I hadn't thought about this until I rewatched it just for this recording, was that it actually harkens back to when he busts out early on and he has the chase for the Hydra person. And I never thought about that, but it really, that contrast of the New York City streets, obviously they're in two completely different geographic locations, but it gives you that essence. It's kind of like a nice bookend in the movie of seeing New York before, New York now, and really kind of places him as that man out of time, which I think I actually liked that. So, again, the logic aside, I like what they did for that in terms of telling the story.
Yeah.
Is there any part of you that would like to have seen it actually be Brooklyn, like be the actual same place, and he comes out and there's the Brooklyn Bridge in the background, but the whole area is different? Or do you like the fact that he comes out and ends up kind of in the Broadway district?
Well, I understand why they put it in the Broadway district. I think it would have been more fun if it was Brooklyn. I think it would have been, but I think for Joe Public, I think that this is more like Slam It, right? This is the kind of thing where it's, here's the blockbuster. We'll show you the huge contrast. So
Yeah, right,
I understand why they did it this way, but I agree with you. I think, or I would say yes to that. I think it would have been really neat if they would have shown, current Brooklyn as opposed to current Times Square.
One of the things that we got into a little bit when we were first introduced to this minute is that the idea that, in fact, it is full of so much color. Like this transition is full of so much color, and that as a part of the transformation from Sepiaville 1940s is important. I think Brooklyn. The problem with Brooklyn is even today it still looks exactly like it still has the same color wash that it did even when you're standing there.
It's historic.
It's historic, and maybe this is. I mean, this demonstrates modernity. Better than maybe other places.
Right.
Well, certainly just the flashing lights and everything. I mean, it feels, really like the thing that's interesting that I was feeling as I was watching this is it feels like somebody's stepping into like the future. Like it really does feel like, wow, I'm on a different planet. Like this is completely unlike anything I've ever seen before. So it's an interesting step.
Now his reaction is pretty weird. Because at some point he just stops, right? Like, I understand his need to get away, but why does he stop?
Shock?
I guess.
Yeah, I guess that's where I would go with it. I mean, he starts running. I mean, there's an element of it feeling, especially where he comes out, like it's just buildings. It's tall buildings. There are a lot of people, and it's not quite as busy as where he ends up. Maybe if he ran the other direction and didn't end up where he does, maybe he would have kept going. But the fact that he kind of turns that corner and comes into this place that is just littered with giant walls of advertisements and technology and all this color and everything. I think that's literally what stops him. I think it is kind of this overwhelm, like a sense that I don't know where I am, and I don't know. I had this feel for him, like it's just like I wouldn't even know. Do I go left? Do I go right? Does it matter?
Right.
Like I'm
and that's fair.
Yeah.
Eddie's soldier.
So I kind of like that. I like that he stops. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Now I want to jump.
Says Nick.
Little Nicky. I want to jump back real quick because I have a different question that I want to just kind of pose as a hypothetical with our SS, our S.H.I.E.L.D. agent. When Steve asks her, "Where am I really?" And he gives her the clue that, this baseball game, I was at it. It happened a few years before. If she had been a better performer and had had kept her smile fades. Like she doesn't know how to respond to him. She kind of falls. But if she had known how to respond and she said, "Oh, we wanted to just play an old game for you, something that made you feel at home," something like that, play an old recording. Do you think that he would have bought into it, or do you think that there's enough that, like, are there other elements, I guess is my question, that Steve is tuning into that might feel different? I mean, we've talked about the bra and the hair. Maybe those ones really would throw him, but I don't know.
I agree that any sort of other bedside manner would probably have worked, because as soon as the agents make entry into the door, that character is gone forever. Yeah, so there is many different options that could have been there. Again, it's all in service to the story or the sequence that they wanted to tell. But there's clearly many different ways that a kind person, of course, relating to Steve Rogers, could appeal to, that he would totally just take in and have a conversation with her if she tried to have a conversation with him. So
I do think that it speaks to the time frame. Just real quick to give us a sense, he was found, we talked about this way in the very beginning of this show, on October 5th, 2011. That's when Steve Rogers was discovered in the ice and retrieved. And then on the, interestingly, on the 6th of the month, this is when S.H.I.E.L.D. is still studying Ivan Vanko's whiplash technology, Samuel Stern's mutation, and Jane Foster's 9 realms theory. So again, tying everything together. And then, so that was the 5th and the 6th. And then on the 7th, his body is thawed out and he's taken to New York. Phil Coulson watches as he's thawed, and he wakes up on the 8th. So it has really, according to their crazy timeline, it really has only been a few days since he was pulled out of the ice. So I do have a sense that, especially if Nick Fury wasn't around, I'm not sure where he was, but if he was trying to get here, I can get a sense that, okay, I can actually buy into they were kind of harried. They were trying to put something together per Nick Fury to make him kind of feel at ease and comfortable when he woke up. And Nick was trying to get there. So I can kind of buy into it. I can piece these together and say, okay, these people are trying to come up with something. It's just they didn't have a lot of time, and Steve woke up quicker than they expected. And so
all that makes sense to me. And I like that. I like that the timeline elements get put in there. I think it gives a little bit more weight to the sort of a frenzy, I guess, that's there. The thing that always confuses me about it is that, of all the people, Captain America is not someone to feel that is dangerous. Like, Captain America is the person that you can appeal to, and that has the goodness in him. But maybe they didn't know that. Maybe they just were afraid of anything that was other at that point, and they just wanted to protect something.
Or worried about, like, context shock, like worried about him like losing himself just because he's been asleep for so long.
Makes sense. But then why send shoulders? The interesting thing is, as we're having this conversation, the story, the movie that I'm thinking about is Contact. And the scene where the aliens appear to Jodie Foster as her father, and she keeps asking there's all this why, and it's like, we just wanted to show you something that you were comfortable with. So I just think Nick needed to maybe tap into his Skrull buddies a little bit to really sort of get a sense of what would be more acceptable for Steve in this moment.
Right, yeah, wouldn't it have been interesting if Bucky had come in the room?
Bucky or Peggy or anybody. Throw them out there.
He would have gone into cardiac arrest.
I don't know.
Bucky have a super embolism.
Right. Bucky is alive.
I was trying to trace his route through Midtown, and I can't figure out which building he comes out of. I mean, obviously we know where he lands, like where he ends, but I couldn't figure out do you have it?
Of course, because good old Jay Shepard put it all together over on the MCU timeline. And yes, the S.H.I.E.L.D. facility is 1585 Broadway. That's the building that is serving as the S.H.I.E.L.D. facility. He runs out of the front doors there and then runs up to 47th, I think, and turns. And so he ends up around 46th and Broadway, which is where he stops.
So is it at all a thing of note that address, the S.H.I.E.L.D. New York remote headquarters, is the Morgan Stanley building? I think we should at least note that. Consider it noted.
Sure.
It is noted. Thank you.
For the record.
That's funny.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, you brought up Acura, Pete. So all these Shield Acura vehicles pull up. There is, there's an extended scene that takes place across this minute, the bulk of which is in minute 114. But it's worth just talking about briefly because the setup here, we kind of see these vehicles arrive, and then suddenly we hear a voice and we cut, and lo and behold, it's Nick Fury standing in front of Steve. There's a little more time spent on the cars arriving and kind of Nick walking up and stuff. Do you feel we needed any of that, or do you feel like this is actually handled pretty well and efficiently?
Yeah, I don't think we needed any of that. I think that's all filler, and especially when in the world of cutscenes, in the world of Marvel cutscenes, that we don't need any more time. The quicker we get to the punch, I think is the more effective that these cutscenes really get to us in the Marvel world.
Yeah, totally agree.
Yep, me too.
Get to the business.
Yep.
And of course, it is Acura because that is the company that has the deal with Marvel. Tony's always driving Acuras. They are just always going to be Acuras.
Andy, what's your understanding of those contracts and screen time?
I don't know. I don't know if it relates to screen time.
Some sort of stipulation?
Probably more exclusivity than anything else, really.
Yeah, it's more exclusivity, and it's more when you show it, make sure you're showing the logo on the front sort of thing. That's, sometimes one of those things that they do want to make sure that you see. And you do see it. Like when those cars pull up right behind Steve, yeah, you can make out that there are those two Acura SUVs that pull up literally right behind him. And then when we cut to Nick, we have some more behind him that are even closer and with their Acura logo nice and prominent. So that's generally the sort of thing that they do want to see in those things. But again, it's also these contracts have so many modifications and changes. I don't know. I mean, it could be a number, like how many vehicles are we going to show, et cetera, et cetera.
Oh, yeah. Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. But this film, I mean, this is really the only opportunity to show the Acura vehicles in it, because before, I mean, it was all the period stuff and it was all Army Jeeps and period vehicles. So
very true.
But get ready. Get ready.
There's so much more to come.
Oh, wow.
That's right.
I think the Iron Man Mark III is actually an Acura. I think we just...
It would be fitting. It would be fitting for sure.
Just it has the logo
Yes.
Right.
on the chest piece.
Yeah.
All right. Well, then I think that's it. Unless either of you have any other points that you want to bring up about this particular minute.
I just want Pete to start calling his son Sergeant Fury.
I'm sure his son would love that.
Yeah.
I literally thought that's why you picked the name Nick. I was like, oh, it's an arbitrary hypothetical. So, it's a son. It's so wonderful. And then as we're going, I'm like, oh, yeah. It's that guy.
It's the other Nick, right?
That is amazing. That's incredibly authentic of you, JJ.
So Pete, then you also need to start calling your family as a whole the Howling Commandos.
Yes. The Howling Commandos.
Okay.
We did it.
I only have to do that for 7 more minutes or so, right?
That's right.
Yes.
There's a limit.
Yeah.
All right. Well, JJ, tell everybody where they can tune in to some of the shows that you have done.
Well, if you go to TruStory.fm, you can find all the different things in the catalog, from the film board and Trailer Rewind and all the fun things there. And we're always looking to create new and fun content from the movie world. And there's going to be new things to come. Lots of exciting things on the horizon. So exciting. Keep tuning in. TruStory.fm.
Well, thanks so much, JJ. We'll have you back not tomorrow, but the day after. So we'll have a chance to chat some more about this. So we certainly appreciate you joining us today.
Thank you.
And Pete, thanks as always.
Dum right. Signing off for the Howling Commandos.
Until next time, true believers.
Marvel Movie Minute is a production of TruStory FM. Engineering by Andy Nelson. This season's music is Spread the News by Anthony Vega. And this season's show art is by Winston Yabo. Find the show at TruStory.fm, and if your podcast app allows ratings and reviews, consider doing that for this show.